Bradley. Bradley runs a chatbot agency called Breakthrough Digital. Breakthrough Digital doesn't try to do everything when it comes to marketing. We just build the best and the most fun custom chatbots out there. And I'm gonna let him to kind of start the presentation, get into what it's gonna be covered, but I had a sneak peek and it's gonna be awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. Bradley, welcome to the community, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for the intro. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And I want to preface this. I know some people are familiar with chatbots, and for some people they're very, very new. So my goal here for this presentation was to kind of give you a Chatbots 101, kind of like a very broad overview. I might move semi-fast. So what I would do is I'm going to send you guys this presentation afterwards. So anything that is not here that you have questions about, write it down or take notes. I'll try to cover all the basics, but we'll do some Q&A at the end, of course. So what we're going to cover is what is a chatbot, Messenger 101, chatbots versus live chat, so automated chatbot versus live chat, what a chatbot can actually do for your business. I'm going to address 6 common or frequently asked questions, and then 4 common misconceptions about chatbots, and then determining if a chatbot's right for you, kind of 5 important questions to ask, and then a couple offers and asks at the end. So first, what the heck is a chatbot? The technical definition: chatbot's a computer program powered by rules or AI that allows you to connect with customers in a chat format. And that's kind of the boring definition. The way that I would think about it is, imagine your website came to life and could have conversations, right? So kind of living on your website, doing everything that your website does, but in a kind of a live, real-time format. And a well-designed, that's key. We'll talk more about that later, but a well-designed chatbot is like having a virtual employee that can complete almost any kind of online task, especially related to marketing. And that employee also works 24/7, can multitask infinitely, and never takes vacation, gets sick, or has a bad day. So that's how I would think about it, is kind of getting like your own digital or virtual assistant. But let's talk about Messenger first, because I build all of my chatbots on the Messenger platform, which if you are on Facebook, if you have a Facebook business page, your Facebook business page is automatically attached to Messenger, instead of kind of building from scratch or like a new platform. So who uses Messenger? Basically everybody. I'm guessing most of you guys do. It was the most downloaded app globally last year on smartphones. So everyone is using it. So if people are there, that's kind of where you want to be, right, to reach your customers. Just a couple stats again on Messenger. There are over 1.5 billion active Messenger users. There's actually 5 times more messages sent on Messenger than on text messages, which is kind of a crazy stat. And then business messages over the past year have quadrupled. So a lot more people are reaching out to businesses through Messenger. And I say this because there's a couple things I'll point out that make Messenger a distinct advantage versus other chatbots built on other platforms or other channels. Facebook's the global leader in Messenger, right? They also own WhatsApp and Instagram, and there's talks about them combining all 3 of those in the future. So that would only make it more effective or more easy to reach your target audience. So this is in the US, what people like to use: WhatsApp versus Messenger versus WeChat. Messenger it's not even close. Messenger is the top dog in the US. And I'm guessing most of you guys, that's where most of your customers are coming from. Now let's talk about like chatbot versus live chat, because a lot of people have questions, what's the difference? Are they the same thing? And the simplest way to think about it is chatbots are automated versus a live chat is, someone typing on the other side. So most of you guys have probably interacted with both at some point, but we're going to kind of compare them real quick. And a chatbot is available 24/7, no humans needed. So reduce cost. You know, if you're a small to medium-sized business, it's hard to have someone on call all the time, or to, you know, have someone around the clock sitting there waiting to respond. You know, big, you know, enterprise companies can do that, right? They can afford that. But again, it's hard. Like a lot of times you're the person who's answering all those questions. You're working around the clock as much as you can, but sometimes it's tough. So the chatbots are great because once you have one, it's infinitely scalable. It'll scale with your business. It can handle as much traffic as you can throw at it. So it only gets more effective as you grow. And then kind of an interesting study actually show people are less likely to share personal information with a live person than a chatbot. So once people know they're talking to a chatbot, they actually kind of open up, the defenses go down, and they're more likely to share some info. But live chat is better if you are, say, like a SaaS company or software where you're answering very technical questions and that sort of thing. Sorry, the guy's using the weed whacker outside. I don't know if you guys can hear it. And then this is just a little bit more. So live chat, you know, you got to ask people for info and they have to willingly give it to you. Whereas as soon as someone interacts with Messenger, you automatically are able to pull some basic information from their Facebook profile. So this is one of the really powerful aspects of Messenger and chatbots is that you automatically have their full name, gender, email address and phone number. You don't get it automatically, but you can do, instead of them filling out a form, you say, hey, you know, is this your email? And then it shows it, pulls it from their Facebook. So it's a one-tap opt-in. So opt-in rates are higher. You know their location, their language, and you can reach out to them on Facebook live chat as soon as they interact with you. So it's much easier to collect initial info that's going to help you to like move the sale forward. So what I do actually though is kind of chatbot plus live chat. So kind of get the best of both worlds. Usually if you can start things with automation and then hand things off to live chat when certain triggers are kind of reached or when, you know, the sales process gets further down the line, I tend to set things up so that people go through a certain automated portion and then gets handed off into live chat. So you're combining kind of the best of both worlds. So I think they're both very useful. There's not one that's totally superior in every case over the other. And then what can a chatbot do for your business? I'm going to go over 5 major benefits. There's more than that. I could go on all day because they can do so many different things and it depends on the business. So here is a couple of graphics of 7 ways. And I'm not going to go through this, but I included this because I think it'll be useful once I send the slides to you guys afterwards. So just know that you can check this out later in a little more detail. But number 1 is improve customer support. You know, you can instantly respond 24/7 to customers and leads, so you don't end up losing potential customers, right? We live in the age of Amazon and the internet, and people want things like instantly, right away. They hate waiting. I'm sure you guys don't like being, you know, on the phone waiting for customer support for a long time. You know, listen to that stupid hold music. And, you know, when someone is say comparing businesses and they reach out to several and someone else responds first, the chances of them getting that new lead or closing that sale, you know, go up compared to yours. So when you're able to respond 24/7 instantly, even in the middle of the night, none of those leads are going to slip through the cracks, and people are going to be happier interacting with you. They also save a lot of time and money. So you or someone on your staff probably spends a lot of time answering the same questions over and over, or asking people the same questions over and over. And marketing automation is basically allowing digital processes to take over some of those things. So automation in the past 10 years, you know, from a marketing perspective, we're talking about website funnels, email. And if you look at, are these trending up or down? Most of the time the answer is down. You know, email is getting super, super competitive, email marketing, so it's harder to kind of stand out. And then in terms of business systems, you know, automation can increase productivity. It reduces human error, can reduce, obviously, you know, costs of hiring someone to kind of sit there and answer questions. So it's not always super easy to measure, but over time, it should save you a lot of time and money, again, especially as you grow. And then in terms of list building and outreach, I'm guessing most of you guys have some sort of email list and do some sort of, email blasts. And kind of like what I said before, email open rates and click-through rates are going down for the most part, just because it's such a crowded channel. Still great to have and still an important part. But Messenger is kind of like a new, I'd call it more like a blue ocean in terms of there's less competition. And then also when people get a message on Messenger, the natural instinct is to open it up and read it, kind of like a text message. So right now, Messenger averages about 80% open rates, so when someone interacts with your Messenger voluntarily, like your chatbot, they become a subscriber. So Messenger has a lot of rules about how you can reach out, and you can't just like blast people over and over the way you're allowed to with email. But when you do broadcast through Messenger, you get that 80+% open rate and a 15%, 15 times the click-through rate of email. So super effective for list building and outreach. If you get consistent with it, it can really kind of be crazy. So here's another like visual of how that works, right? So if 2,000 emails are delivered versus 2,000 messages, you get, 4 times open. So let's say 3/4, 1,600 people open, 50% click-through rate, 40, I'd say it's more 40 to 50. But you're getting 800 clicks versus a 3% click rate on email. And a click rate is basically someone opening the message and engaging or interacting with it, or kind of like taking up the call to action, right? And then the conversion rate, this might be slightly skewed, but either way, you're looking at a huge difference and how that top-down funnel translates into sales. And then, multi-channel marketing is kind of a term you might start to hear more. Basically, Messenger, SMS, and email can all work together kind of in unison. So the platform that I use, my bots, I'm starting to really integrate a lot of SMS and email within what I'm doing. So if someone gets through a Messenger flow, which I'll get into that later, they'll get a text confirmation, they'll get an email follow-up, kind of all like together. You don't want to do it in a spammy way, obviously, but when you combine those channels, it's super powerful because one of those three is going to really resonate with whoever you're kind of reaching out to. And then again, I'm not going to go through these stats here in comparison, but you can check this out later when we send it to you. So what can a chatbot do for you? Number 4 is easier communication, right? People, email is super slow sometimes. People don't like waiting, especially, millennials, people in my generation. They won't pick up the phone. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but trying to reach out or call people and they don't know your number, and they're, the millennials or younger, they're, you can see the graph here, things I'd rather do than make a phone call, be eaten by a dinosaur. And that's probably true. I like the phone, but I know most people my age, I can't even get them on the phone with me. So basically no one answers the phone. So again, I'll get into this more later, but the skew is kind of younger in that regard. But also, I know for email, filling out a contact us form and waiting, you don't know when you're going to get a response versus knowing you're going to get an instant conversational response. It's kind of refreshing to get that, engaging one-on-one back and forth. And then better lead info helps you close sales, right? So if you get a lead that says, hey, here's an email and a name, or maybe a phone number, and reach out to them and try and, close a sale, that's kind of hard to do. But here is an example of after someone goes through a Messenger bot and then a notification that the owner would get. So instead of just getting those 2 points of data, you are getting more like, 10 plus at a minimum. So you can see here on the far left, this is the whole note, like lead, you got a new lead kind of notification, and then it's broken down into 3 parts. So you have their name, their email, their phone number. This is a real estate investing example. So they get also, their address. That's an important piece of the puzzle for that business. Condition of the house, asking price, how fast they want to sell. Zillow will link to the house. So like basically you have a ton of info going into that sale, which you can use to kind of hit those pain points, or you know what they're looking for, and you can kind of you don't have to spend a lot of time asking them questions. So there's tons of advantages to having more data basically on your new leads. And this is just another example of chatbot versus email, and kind of leading to conversions and sales. So let's get into the FAQs. I'm guessing some of you guys have questions written down already. Maybe those will get answered here. First one, can I build one myself? You know, technically you probably could, just like you could go build a website by yourself, but it's probably going to be a lot of trouble. It's going to take you a long time. Will it be any good? You know, probably not, unless you spend a ton of time kind of learning it, just like any other skill. It's a similar learning curve to building websites, but can actually have a little bit more nuance to it. And then, does a chatbot try to replace people? You know, this is a really big one I get. You know, are chatbots trying to replace me or my team? And the answer is no. You know, they're trying to do things for you and take things off your plate, but not replace you. So they save you and, you know, time answering and asking the same questions over and over, which allows you or your team to spend more time, you know, on other kind of profitable tasks that have to be done by a human. So think assist rather than replaced. And then, are all chatbots created equal? The answer is definitely not. Maybe you guys have interacted with chatbots before that are, you know, make you want to throw your computer out the window. I know I have. So like a poorly designed chatbot is going to hurt you more than it's going to help you, right? Think of it as same thing with a website. You know, a bad website is going to give you a bad look versus having a really good website, you know, but because it's a conversation, it's almost amplified. So a bad bot, I would say if you want just like a chatbot to have a chatbot and a cheap one, you're better off probably not having one, versus having one that's actually going to enhance the customer experience. And is an AI chatbot, you know, the way to go? I would say in most cases, no, because in most cases, they aren't actually AI. Almost all of the ones that I've interacted with that claim to be powered by AI are not. And it's just kind of a fancy marketing buzzword right now that is kind of hyped up, and a lot of people are kind of taking advantage of it. For a true AI bot, you're probably going to be paying, you know, somewhere in the 5 to 6 figure range, you know, for something really, really well done. Most things are done, you know, it could seem like a bot's AI, but most of the time it's conditional logic, which is basically a way of processing questions, but it doesn't actually learn on its own. You know, everything's kind of pre-programmed. So when you see something that says powered by AI, I would be kind of hesitant about that. So I don't claim to use AI in mine. So how do people kind of access or communicate with your bot other than messaging you on Facebook? There's a ton of different ways that you can integrate your bot with kind of your online parts of your business. So the overlay widgets here on the left, those are all kind of windows or boxes that you can integrate with your website. So you can have a slide in kind of come in and initiate people going into Messenger. You know, you can put it into a button. And then the other growth tools, you know, you can create your own landing page within ManyChat, which is pretty awesome. So super easy to set up a page that goes into your chatbot. The Messenger ref URL is probably the most commonly used one. Oops, sorry about that. That's basically just creating a link that people can click on that goes to your chatbot. So you can share that in an infinite number of ways. Facebook ads JSON is basically how you integrate your chatbot with Facebook ads if you're running Facebook ads. You could even have people comment on like a Facebook Live or on a post that initiates a chatbot conversation. You know, you can put it into a QR code. So you can integrate it into your print stuff. So like if you have a pamphlet and you want people to interact with your chatbot from your pamphlet, you can put a QR code that people can scan and it'll take them into a conversation. And then customer chat is a really big one, kind of where it just lives in the bottom corner of your website. So that's kind of a real standard one I always use. So lots of different ways to do it. And this is what some of them look like, you know, offline to online. You got the QR codes on the far right. You have send a messenger, you got plugins, you got check boxes for like purchases, and then a customer chat plugin on the bottom corner. And this is kind of how it fits into your whole ecosystem. This is a casual restaurant like example. So you have Facebook Messenger ads, you have web traffic, and you have Facebook visitors kind of all funneling into your messenger, and then your messenger kind of will take them through a process and then kind of bring them either to, you know, FAQs if they have questions. It can do like orders and pickup info. You know, they can browse the menu, or it can kind of direct them to one of your other channels, say DoorDash or Uber Eats if you're using something like that. And then how much do they cost? I'm sure that's probably the number one question everyone has most of the time. So generally speaking, chatbots can go anywhere from 500 on the low end to, you know, I've seen ones that are, you know, $100,000. And ours range generally from 2,500 to 3,500 for the build out. And it's just like a website kind of build out. And then there's a kind of 8 to 10% recurring monthly fee. And that is updates, maintenance, troubleshooting, making sure it stays compliant with Facebook's policies that change every so often. And also like if you need new stuff created for integrating with your ads, you know, stuff like that. So that's kind of how we do it. I would say right now, kind of trying to build up some clientele and stuff. So to be honest, I'm probably underpricing myself a little right now, but I guess that would be your advantage. You know, if you were interested, but most of the time, if you're paying 500 to 1,000 for a chatbot, very rarely is it going to be worth it. So that's just my 2 cents on that. And then common misconceptions. You know, I want customers talking to me, not an automated chatbot. I kind of touched on this before, but the underlying goal of chatbots is to actually create more engaging, more successful person-to-person conversations. So a well-designed chatbot will initiate the sales process, kind of do that initial upfront work, and then hand off information to you when the time is right. So it always leads to a human. That's our main goal, is to take these leads or, you know, people who are reaching out and get them into a conversation with you. That's really, if I were to boil down like the goal of what chatbots do, that's it. In most cases. So, and again, it does you that by handing off more info than you would have had before, which kind of sets you up for a successful conversation. Plus, you're going to stand out and be remembered versus, you know, if you have a really fun, engaging chatbot, they're probably going to be like, okay, these, you know, I kind of like they have a little personality and they stand out. So it kind of makes a nice first impression that makes it easier for you when you're introduced. And then people don't like messaging chatbots. I would say in some cases, you know, not everyone's gonna like it, but people's, you know, expectations are a little different now. They almost expect to be able to interact with you in a text, you know, conversational platform. And people use, you know, you saw the stats earlier with Messenger. People are using messaging apps like crazy. People are using the phone less and less. So not everyone likes messaging chatbots, but especially, like I said, those kind of younger generations really prefer it over other channels. And then I don't want trick people into thinking they're talking to a person. This is a big one. The number one rule of chatbots in my book is don't try to trick people into thinking they're speaking with, oh, that's a typo, an actual person. You tell them right away that they're talking to a chatbot. So like it introduces, hey, you know, I'm Breakthrough Bot. You know, I'm Breakthrough's automated assistant. And so you introduce it that way, and then people know right away, okay, I'm talking to a chatbot. They're not trying to pull one over on me. And then these are kind of some of the chatbots that I've actually, as like mascots that I've designed for different clients. Up in the top left, that's Breakthrough Bot. That's our bot. And then Sophie in the middle is for a sleep consultant that I was just finishing a project for. Upside Bot, real estate wholesaling. And then Lisa, virtual leasing agent. And Bailey, the window bot. So you can see it's kind of tailored and branded to match your business. So it's kind of fun. And again, when one of these pops up and has like a fun message, you're kind of like, oh, okay, you know, kind of loosens you up a little bit. So number 4, all chatbot creators know how to code. So actually, I don't code at all. I don't know how to code. And that might be surprising to people. People think chatbots are very techy, and they can be. There are a lot of chatbots out there built on code, but the ones that I build are not code-based, and they don't have to be a good chatbot. It's more about understanding sales psychology, copywriting, and how to conversationally kind of take people through, you know, the process. So it's more of an art than a science. And I would say a copywriter or a salesperson would be a better chatbot creator than a software developer in most cases. So that's kind of why I like it. You know, I like that kind of stuff versus getting bogged down in the technical aspects. So it is still kind of very, can be complicated even without code. So it's kind of like you're almost building like a brain. You're building like almost like a living, breathing, not breathing, but thinking technical like entity, I guess you're interacting with. So this is behind the scenes of a flow. And if I zoomed in, you would see each box is part of like a conversation or actions and stuff. And this is kind of like under the hood. I think of it as like Apple, where super like simple layout and super user friendly on the front end, but obviously super technical and super, you know, there's a lot of detail that goes into the back end. So this is an example of one flow. And my chatbots typically have, you know, well over 100 flows total. So this is one of the more, I'll say this is one of the more kind of intricate ones. Some of them are real short, but it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on in the back end. And I always kind of show this to clients. You know, I'll go through, you know, once I build out their custom flows, I'll go through it and kind of explain everything that's going on so that they can understand, okay, what's going on behind the scenes and if they want to change stuff. So is a chatbot right for your business? Some of you guys are probably wondering that right now. So I got 5 questions for you to ask to kind of help determine or get a better feel for that. So the number 1 is, do you have consistent traffic? Chatbots, they basically live on traffic. So traffic is basically people visiting your website, people visiting your Facebook. Basically, how are you getting people to interact with your chatbot? Because without traffic, a chatbot's not really going to do anything, right? It will only do as much work as you give it. So if you don't really have consistent traffic yet, if you're not getting like semi-regular inquiries from your website or to your social media, then you're probably just not ready for a chatbot yet. It's not really worth it. You're better off investing in creating more traffic first in a lot of cases. And the second question, do you need more time? I know that answer is kind of for everyone, but if you have more money than you do time, a chatbot can really free you up in a lot of ways. Again, saves you and your staff a lot of time. You know, whereas if you're starting out and you have more time than you do money, it's probably not as much of a priority. And then, are you selling big ticket products and services? This is a big one. The more expensive your product or service, usually, the more each missed lead can affect you, or the more you're missing. So making sure that those don't slip through the cracks is more valuable if you're kind of high ticket. So we're talking, you know, I'll give an example of like multifamily apartments. You know, a tenant who signs for a year, that's like a $15,000, you know, increase in revenue. So that's huge, right? And if you miss one of those just because you were slow to respond or something, that you might not feel it as much, you know, like you don't miss what you didn't have quite yet, but you could be missing out on a ton of revenue, more so when you're missing leads if you're high ticket. So they ensure you don't really miss those leads or have slow response times that cause you to miss out on those things. And also, if you're selling big ticket stuff, you typically have more questions to ask, more pre-qualifying. You get maybe more questions about your product or service before people buy. Plus, you make your money back real fast. You get like one new lead or sale, and you're a big ticket, that pays for your chatbot, like right off the bat, versus, if you're a restaurant, like, it might take a while to kind of see that return, and that sort of thing. And then again, I kind of touched on this earlier, but does your demographic trend younger or older? So when it comes to the apartments, if they're a college, if they're like a apartment community for college students or young professionals, it's huge. But if they're like a 55 and older community, I'm like, it's probably not really worth it in most cases. So you can see here these stats, Generation Y. This is on the left, this is like messaging, social media versus the telephone. So you can see Generation Y, X, and then like baby boomers, they start to prefer the phone more. And I'm sure some of you guys can kind of confirm. I see some of you nodding your head on that. And then in the past 12 months, have you been using chatbots more or less? Again, a lot of that younger generation starting to use them more and more. And again, the 55 plus, you see there's definitely a drop off there. So again, think about your demographics. If it spans all over, it's probably still worth it in a lot of cases, because if you get a younger customer, they're going to be a repeat customer for a long time. And they also like to post on social media about products and services that they like, so it tends to spread a little bit faster too. And then, is your competition using them? So this goes a couple different ways. If a lot of businesses in your industry are already using chatbots, it's probably a sign that you need to get on board, because you don't want to be that one person who's behind. But if they're not, I've been talking to a lot of, roofers and kind of tradesmen and stuff like that. And a lot of those, let's call it, like blue collar type professions, they tend to be very old school in how they network and how they do sales and marketing. So there's a huge opportunity to really stand out from the crowd, because a lot of those industries are kind of behind with their online marketing and stuff like that. So if you're on like either extreme where there's a lot of people in your industry using them, you probably want to do it just to, not be behind. If no one in your industry is doing it, ask yourself these other questions first, but it's a great way to stand out and have an advantage. If your industry's in between, you see some here and there, then it's kind of a little bit more, not as, cut and dry, but, that's kind of more your call. Or you can't answer it specifically on this question, right? And then how is Breakthrough Digital different, right? I've talked a little bit about what we do, but our focus is singular. So we don't do Facebook ads. We don't do other social media stuff. We have a good understanding. Started as a social media agency and kind of pivoted last year. But most agencies out there that offer chatbots, it'll be an add-on to Facebook ads or something like that. So what we do is all we do is chatbots. So we focus on just building the best bot. That's why I said the traffic's important. We don't focus on driving traffic. We just focus on, here's your chatbot. We're going to make it as awesome as possible, and you just drive traffic to it and it'll do its job. Another thing is we give your automation some personality. Like I said, you guys saw those logos, that kind of matched the image of the business. And then we also kind of have a little bit of give it its own personality to match your business. Some are a little more like subdued, and some are really bubbly and fun and have a lot of gifts and stuff like that. So you kind of have it match whatever you're doing in your business. Because a lot of times automation out there, when you hear like robot or robotic, you think like boring, monotone voice and that sort of thing. So we try to make it fun. If you can get someone smiling or laughing early on in the process, before they even talk to you, that's a huge step towards, making that strong first impression, right? Just kind of humanizes the experience. And then most bots, like I said, I showed you that flow. Most bots have probably 10 to 12 or less flows. Like I said, ours have 100 plus. Not all of those are like customer facing. A lot of them are back end kind of logic and stuff like that. But I've yet to build a bot that has less than 100 flows. And some of those are standardized and some of them are custom. But basically, it kind of just shows you the scope of, and the intelligence of what you're getting. Automatically respond to a couple hundred basic keywords and stuff like that. So you don't get the same, like, sorry, I didn't understand that. Sorry, I didn't understand that, like, response over and over. So that's kind of what we do different. And then my offers to the group, I will give you guys, whoever's interested, like a free kind of 45-minute Q&A consultation. Say, like, this maybe piqued your interest, but you have a lot of questions still on, does this really fit with my business and that sort of thing, or how would it kind of fit into the picture? I'd be happy to sit down and kind of go over that with you, answer any questions, no hard pitch or anything like that. And I could do that for up to probably 5 people, whoever wants to take advantage of that. And then I'll build a bot for 20% off for the first Avontage member who wants one. But let me say that I won't build a bot for you if I don't think it's a great fit for your business. And it's not for everyone, especially, if you're kind of solopreneur mode and your marketing is still in the infant steps and that sort of thing. Or again, if you're like really low ticket and you have an older demographic, I'll say, it's probably not worth the investment for you right now. And also for me, I don't want to build a bot for someone that it's not going to get results for in the end, because that just, that doesn't come back well for me. So, so if you're interested in that, reach out. We could, talk about it first. But those are my offers. And then also my asks would be obviously referrals, raising awareness. I could kind of create like a short list of some specific demographics or certain industries that I'm looking to work with in our follow-up email, just to give you guys an idea maybe. And then also I'll send you guys a demo. So that's one of the things is I went back and forth. I was like, do I show a demo in this to start? And since I knew like I was already covering a lot, I said what I'll do is I'll kind of give you guys the info so you have a lot of context, and then I'll send you guys a fun little demo that you can check out after this and kind of go through on your own, because it's also going to be better if it's an individual experience and that sort of thing. So that would be my number one ask, is to check out a demo, regardless of if you're interested or not, because it will, it's one of those things that's very visual, like you can describe a car to someone or you can show them the car, right? So I would check out the demo, and then you'll really start to understand and visualize kind of what the chatbot experience is like from us, and then just spread the word if you can. So those are my asks, and I think that's about it. I know I went maybe just a little long, but
oh, that was very informative. Thank you so much, Bradley. That was such eye-opening, and this is something that I think it's not only a trend, but I think every business eventually will need to have one. Just like you said, it's the next level from a website. Mm-hmm. It's basically having a live website or agent, and it's not necessarily just sits on your website. And I'll get to my questions, but it can sit on your social media, mm-hmm. links and platforms, any emails you send out. If you have landing pages, you can literally have this everywhere throughout your platform. But I want to, before I get to my questions, I've jotted them down here. I want to kind of go around, see who has questions. You can raise your hands and we'll unmute you.
Sounds good. Anyone?
Any questions? All right, then I'll go with my questions.
You get the ball rolling, then everyone else will probably jump in.
Okay, sounds good. So I have several. I don't know if I should do. Well, let me just get the easy ones out of time. So yeah. If one visits and they want to engage with you and they happen not to have Facebook Messenger app, they have to download it and activate it, correct?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So the one disadvantage of Messenger is that if someone's not on Messenger, they can't interact with your bot. But that's probably going to be 5% or less of the general population.
Correct.
Whereas the advantages far outweigh that disadvantage. Being on Messenger, like you said, getting all that info,
right,
and interacting through Facebook, like a channel that people already use, I found has far outweighed the disadvantage of not being able to interact with those few percent of people who aren't really on Messenger. Right. If they're not on Messenger, the chances of them wanting to interact in chat is pretty low. And then you can also install it so that it'll only show up on your website to people who are logged into Messenger on their computer or their phone.
Okay, so that was my question. So it's either only shows it to the people that are already have the thing, or it'll prompt them to download the app.
Correct. Yep.
And have it that way. Okay. So next question is, oh, this is kind of what you and I have spoken before also. So it's you know that the combination of having a chat bot and a live chat. So it can be set up various ways, right? So the way I was thinking to set it up for us is during the business hours, we want to be engaged with anybody that visits, and then the after hours, it'll switch over to a chat bot. But I think what you just kind of explained, it made me kind of think a little bit more. It could be that actually, as soon as they come in, they go through a few basic questions via the chatbot, and it's handed over to a live person, if there is one. If there isn't one, then it'll continue with the chat. Those scenarios can be set up, configured that way?
Yeah, you can do that. Or a lot of times people will interact with it, and sometimes the chatbot might be able to answer all their questions and get them where they want to go. And then other times it might notice, okay, like, let's do these few basic steps and then hand it off. So it'll kind of be able to tell, you know, based on what the person's looking for, if they need to be handed off to a regular person or not. But either way, even if they're not handed off right away, their info is still collected, and then that lead info gets sent to you.
Well, we can set a schedule and configuration times and etc. to kind of do the switch.
Yeah, that's on. I haven't done that specifically, but you can do that.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I think I see Andy. I think he raised his hand. But before I pass it over to him, so you know, again, the realization that the kind of fact I think for everyone to kind of consider is, you don't necessarily have to have a lot of traffic to your website. If you have a high engaging social media platform, if you have a huge presence on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, and you're constantly, you know, talking to potential clients there, just a simple link there will guide them to send them to the chatbot. And now you have a, you know, the closest thing you can have to a live social media profile, and even in an email marketing campaign. You know, we send tons of emails out, and it's always it's kind of a one-way, kind of a, you know, dumb in quotes email. But if there's a live button chat sitting there, then now all of a sudden the members can engage. I think there's just so much value, so much potential that it would really increase. And then, like you said, it pays for itself. Andy, did you raise your hand? No? Okay, maybe it was hidden. Anybody else? Carmen, I see your hand went up. Were you trying to? Anybody? Don't even try to bring your hand up because you're going to be called on. All right, so if there are no questions, let's jump here into our intros. That means that was an amazing talk. Thank you. Answered a lot of questions, and everyone will get a copy of this. Oh, well, Mark, did you have a question?
No, he's just giving a thumbs up, I think.
I was giving a thumbs up.
Okay. All right. Yeah, don't try to
just chatted. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Thank you.
all your attention.
Awesome. Thank you, Bradley. Again, you did a lot of work on that, and I appreciate it.